Welcome to How to 6X Your Sales in 2024. My name is Joe Beck, founder of The Sales Activist, and I am super excited to be going over this with you today. So before we jump into the content we have to go over tonight, I want to just share a little bit about who I am and what qualifies me to be sitting here going over all of this today. As I said, my name is Joe Beck, founder of The Sales Activist. I'm a 35-year sales and business development expert. I've worked in sales with all the way from Fortune 50 companies all the way down to solopreneurs. And across my working career, I have personally generated over $500 million in sales revenues for companies that I've worked with and for. I've led sales teams as large as 200 salespeople in the field, and I have personally coached, trained, or mentored over 3,500 sales professionals and entrepreneurs. And tonight, we're going to be talking about many of the best practices that I've deployed with the teams that I've worked with, the people that I've trained, coached, and mentored. And we're going to be putting it all together tonight, talking about how to 6X your sales results in 2024. And before we jump into the content, I just want to let everybody know that if I can help you in any way with sales, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach me directly on my digital assistant by texting the word sales to the number 409-509-7355. That's texting the word sales to 409-509-7355. You'll connect with my digital assistant and they can schedule some time on my calendar to talk with you. Now, as we jump in, let's first start with what I think is one of the most important things that everybody needs to hear and know about 6Xing your sales results in 2024. And that's this. No matter what 2023 was like, no matter what the trend heading into 2024 was like, if you had a great year or if you're struggling, you need to know this: you're not alone. There's nothing wrong with you. Many people face challenges with sales results as they're working on things for themselves, for their business, for whatever they're trying to sell. And they think that sometimes those struggles are a permanent condition. Well, the fact is, you're not alone. Everybody goes through things like that. You're going to find that sales results fluctuate from time to time. And tonight we're going to talk about some of the things you need to know and master to get beyond that struggle and get on track to 6X your sales results. The second thing that I want to share with everybody is that sales skills are learned. Now, it's important to understand that because there are still some people that believe that there is such a thing as a born salesperson. Well, I'm here to dispel that rumor completely. There is no such thing as a born salesperson. Everybody is born with zero sales skills, and every single sales skill you're ever going to learn is learned. Okay, now some people might have a natural inclination for communication. They might be more outgoing, outspoken. They may find it easier to talk to people that they don't know, and that may give them a little bit of advantage. But the fact is, there's no such thing as a born salesperson. Everything we're going to talk about today are things that you can learn. Everything that we're going to be going over today during this session, whether you're catching it live or catching the recording, are things that you can learn. They aren't things that you need to know or be born with. Some people still carry that as a belief system. It's just not true. Now, as we jump into this, it's important that you understand if you're going to have breakout sales momentum, if you're going to significantly increase your sales results, and in this case, get you to the point where you 6X your sales results, you need to start with a very clear and defined plan. A clear and defined plan. And we're going to talk about the component pieces of that plan tonight, as well as the three most important questions that you need to be asking yourself heading into this year. Now, we're already through January. January is just about done. So we're down to 11 months. How are you going to 6X your sales results in the remainder of the year? There are three important questions that you need to ask yourself. So I'm going to ask you to take out a pen and paper, jot these things down. You definitely want to know these questions. You want to ask these questions of yourself, and you need to really figure out what the answers are for these three questions. So let's jump in with these three questions, starting right there. And then we're going to go through a lot of content, kind of rapid fire here to help you 6X your sales results. So the first question, and it goes under the category of having a clear and defined plan. And you need to write this in bold letters for yourself. What will you do for your success? What will you do for your sales success? Now, I know that sounds very general, but the fact is, you need to clearly define what you specifically will personally do towards your sales success. You need to narrow it down, focus on it, and pinpoint exactly what you're going to do to generate your sales momentum. This is the first question you need to answer for yourself. You need to be as specific and as detailed as you can be in describing what your personal activities will be. Now, why is that important? I know for some people, they don't put a lot of emphasis on that. They think that along the way that those personal activities won't matter as much in the greater picture of what they're trying to accomplish. But the fact is, when you're going to be successful, if you really want to create breakout sales momentum, you need to answer these three questions, starting with the first. What specifically will you do? What will you do during your peak business hours? What will you do during your off-peak hours? What will you be investing your time in towards this effort? And this is one that holds back a lot of people because they aren't clear, they aren't defined, and they aren't specific in what it is that they do. So we're going to start there. You want to know specifically what you're going to do. Now, that would involve all of your activities, how many calls you're going to make, how many emails you're going to make, how many social media posts, how many posts in general will you make, how many emails or messages will you send on a different platform. You need to specify everything that you will do, and you need to map it out. And this is so critical to your success because along the way, you need to know this. This is just the first of three questions that you need to answer for yourself. Just the first one. And starting off on the right foot by getting this answered clearly and specifically will help you with the other two. But you need to make sure you answer this for yourself. Don't skip over it. Don't gloss over it thinking it's not going to matter. It really will matter. And you need to map it out. What you're going to do every single day specifically to drive your sales success. And this is one of the things that we work with people on with the sales activists. We help people clearly define what their sales activities will be, what they will focus on. You know, high value activities versus low value activities. Where should they specifically spend their own time? Now, why is that important? Well, it's because of the second question. If the first question was, what will you do towards your sales success? The second question that you need to answer for yourself if you want to 6x your sales results is, what will other people do towards your sales success? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is, what will other people do as it relates to your success? Will you work with strategic partners? Will you have direct partners? Will you have affiliates? Will you have strategic relationships of any kind, joint ventures? Will you create alignment with complementary services? Will you generate referrals? Will you have referral programs? You need to think through what other people can do to remove some of the heavy lifting from yourself. Now, why is this so important? Because anybody who's ever had significant increase in their sales results has figured out a way to grow their results through scaling. And they've figured out how to involve other things, other mechanisms, other people towards generating their success. If you think you're going to be able to go out there and scale your business doing everything by yourself every single day, you're in for a long road. It's not going to happen. But while you're doing the things that you need to do, you can have other people doing things that will help your success. You can have other people, maybe they're strategic partners, maybe they're people that you're working in joint ventures with, maybe they're referral partners, whoever they may be. You need to build a plan for what other people will do. You've all probably heard the phrase, many hands make light work. Well, this is very much the case when it comes to sales. One of the things that elite salespeople know and understand is if they could generate business in an easier way, they want to explore that. Maybe it's the referrals, maybe it's joint ventures or partnerships, maybe it's somebody else doing some of that heavy lifting. You need to master that. That's the second question that you need to answer for yourself. And absolutely, without a doubt, all three of these things are critical to your success, especially if you want to 6x your sales results. And what's the third question that you need to answer for yourself? And this one's a big one. This is one that intimidates a lot of people just based upon the world we live in today. And that question is this: what can you automate in your business? What things, what activities, what things can you automate in your business? Now, maybe that automation is automating some of the repetitive activities that you have for yourself. Maybe that automation is hiring somebody to do things to replace you. Maybe that automation is building systems that process things so you don't have to manually do them. The bottom line is this: for you to be able to 6x your sales results in today's world, you need to figure out how automation tools, systems, and other things leading with technology can help to make your life easier. If it takes you a certain amount of hours to uncover a certain number of prospects, but you can refer that to another resource, an automation, a service, whatever it is, to replace that and free up your time, that's something you need to explore. It's something you need to know and understand and master. Now, for the people that are really serious about 6xing their sales results, you need to master all three of these questions. What will you do? And you need to dial that in specifically. What will others do? And you need to build a very specific plan that will help you accomplish what you want to accomplish using other people's help, okay? If you're experienced in the real estate industry, they talk a lot about other people's money, right? In doing real estate deals, borrowing money, using lenders, other people's money. Well, in sales, it can be other people's time. Who else can you mobilize on your behalf that's going to generate sales for your business? Maybe it's a split revenue deal. Maybe you share profits. Maybe you split a commission. Maybe you figure out a way to compensate them. Maybe it's a referral for referral, back and forth. Whatever it is, what else will other people do? Elite sales professionals know the power of this. They understand how important it is to get other people working on your behalf. So much business is done via referral with elite sales professionals because they've figured out that the more people that they can get involved helping on their behalf, the easier it is for them to accomplish their sales goals and scale their business. And that third one, automation. In today's world especially, it's amazing what technology is doing for the business world. AI technology, different platforms, different tools, things that can make your life easier. If you are intimidated or afraid of those things, don't be. I will tell you this: don't look at it like AI is going to replace you in the process. But what I will tell you is, if you want to remain competitive, if you want to meet and exceed your sales goals, if you want to 6x your sales results, you need to figure out how to get some of these automation tools working on your behalf. Get those things working towards your goals, your success, and you will find yourself well on track to accomplishing what you'd want to accomplish. So those are the three questions. What will you do? What will others do? And what can you automate in your business? Now, to be successful doing all three of these things and to get on track to 6xing your sales results, you need to go through a process that I like to call the RE process. You need to reverse engineer to the smallest degree what all of your activities need to be to generate the results that you're trying to generate. And that involves all of these categories, whether it's you personally, whether it is others that are working on your behalf, or whether it is automations doing work for you and for the behalf of your business. You need to reverse engineer all the way down to the smallest degree exactly what your activity needs to be. And I'll just give you an example. If you know your end result is a sale, and that sale is $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000, whatever the number is, you need to start with that successful end result and back yourself out of that process and figure out exactly what activity needs to happen to generate that result. How many proposals did you need to put in front of legitimate prospects? How many prospects did you need to contact to generate appointments? How many appointments did you need to have to generate proposals? How many suspects did you need to generate to cultivate and qualify to turn them into a qualified prospect to keep feeding that process? How many cold suspects did you need to dump into the beginning of that process to get to that end result? You need to reverse engineer all the way from the point that that sale happens, all the way back to the initial point that you do something to start the process. Now, why is that so important towards your sales success? Because for a lot of people, they go about selling almost like they're practicing as they go. They don't have a plan. They don't have a specific agenda. They get in front of people, they try to talk to people about what their services are, and they hope that they're going to get a certain percentage of those people to buy from them and become clients. There isn't a preconceived plan meticulously mapped out and using accurate ratios for success. And you've heard the saying that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Well, that is very true in selling. If you don't have a plan for your sales success, and that plan doesn't include specific activity metrics, specific ones, you are going to struggle. You will not be able to generate consistent business. You definitely won't be able to grow and build momentum operating that way. And you certainly won't be able to 6x your sales results. So it's important that you reverse engineer everything that you do. Now, we're going through this rapid fire, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that if you need help with anything sales related, please text the word sales to the number 409-509-7355. I particularly want to talk to people that are interested in 6xing their sales results. If you're serious about that, reach out to me. I want to help. Let's keep going. Okay, so after you've figured out what you reverse engineer and how that plan needs to look, now you need to go about executing on that plan, right? You need to go about executing the plan. And before you do that, you first need to learn one of the most valuable lessons that you're ever going to hear as it relates to sales. And I'm going to share this with you now before we get into everything else, because I think it's important that you understand the power of this message, okay? Nobody cares what it is that you offer. None of your suspects or prospects, none of your clients, nobody cares what you do. What they care about is how what you do impacts them. And I want to say that again. Nobody cares about what it is that you do. They only care about how what you do impacts them. Now, why is that important to start with? Why do you need to know that as an element of sales success? Because you need to understand that it is all about your prospect. It is all about your client. It's not about you. It's not about what you do, how amazing you are, what great results you've generated, how many sales you've made, how many clients you've helped. None of that matters as it relates to your individual client. What matters to them is how what you do will impact them. And that's an important thing to keep in the back of your mind. And why is that so important? Because you need to wire your mind to think like your prospects and your clients think. It needs to be geared in towards what they're looking for. And why am I saying that now? Because at the top of the list of things that you need to talk about with people is you need to first be seen and get people's attention, right? You need to get people's attention. Now, how you go about doing that may vary from one industry to the next. What your preferred prospecting method is may look different from one situation to another. What services, what methods you deploy could be entirely different. But ultimately, what you need to do in everything that you do as it relates to prospecting is you need to get people's attention. You need to get their attention so they're paying attention to you, so you can figure out how you can help them. After you have people's attention, and this is where you really need to start dialing in for your sales success, there are 3 critical elements that you need to master. And we're going to talk about these pretty quickly because we've spent some time already talking about specifically the questions you need to ask yourself. But now we're going to dig into the elements that you need to master. At the top of the list, the number one thing that you need to master is you need to have the right sales success mindset. Your mindset needs to be dialed in. If you're going to 6x your sales results, you need to have the right sales success mindset. And what is that? Well, that's a mindset of service. That's a mindset of under-promising and over-delivering. That's a mindset of helping your prospects and clients get everything that they're looking for and even more if you can. That's the right sales success mindset. If you go into a sales interaction and all you're thinking about is what you need to accomplish out of the relationship, what you need to generate revenue-wise, what deal you need to close, how much money you need to pay your bills, whatever it is that you're trying to figure out in the back of your mind, if that's your focus, you're going to struggle. You need to put that out of your mind, and you need to make it all about your prospect, all about your client. That's the right mindset. The second things that you need to have, especially if you want to 6x your sales results, you need to make sure that you have the right sales success network in place. Network. Now, why is that so important? You just heard me talk about a few minutes ago the power of getting other people doing things on your behalf. Imagine if 60, 70, 80% of the clients that you spoke to came to you via a warm introduction from somebody that knows you or knows them. Imagine how powerful that will be. So people that could be in your sales success network could be personal relationships, business relationships, clients that you've worked with, people that you've helped with problems before. These are all people that could speak favorably of you, that could be part of your sales success network. Who else could be? Strategic relationships, strategic partners, joint venture partners, affiliates, okay? People that have a vested interest in your success. Other people that have complementary services or businesses that benefit when your business benefits. I love operating that way. I love including other people in my little brain trust of experts in helping to solve problems for clients. Why? Because I know if I bring my team in, we're staying working with that client. They may have a need in another area. Well, I'm going to want to refer them to somebody that I know will take good care of them, as would they. And that's why I want to know that that network of people is also going to do the same for me. That's an example of your sales success network. Now, what else do you need to have down? And this is just so critical to your success. You need to have the right sales success systems. You can't go out and sell differently to every person that you interact with. You can't go out and handle every interaction like it's its own separate thing completely, and you've never been there before. You have to build systems in everything that you do. Systems in how you identify prospects, systems in how you qualify those prospects, systems in how you generate appointments, systems in how you handle the appointments, systems in how you handle the sales process, systems in how you follow up and propose to clients, and obviously systems in how you close clients to generate business. You need to have significant sales success systems. And if you're looking to generate those types of systems for yourself to 6x your sales results, that's exactly the type of work that we do at the Sales Activist. And I'd love to talk to you about that if you need some help. But let's keep going. What are the two most important things that you need to understand about sales and certainly 6xing your sales results? Well, you need to understand that you need to master two specific categories of things that are going to make your life easier. The first is the science of selling. Okay, you've all heard this. There's an art and there's a science. Well, in sales, it is very much the case. There is an art and there is a science. And I'm going to tell you where I always tell people to start. I always tell people first comes the science. Why? Because science is what generates activity. Science is what generates numbers and results. Science is what generates opportunity for you to work on your business. Now, to master that, you need to understand all the elements of the science side of things. What does that mean? That means knowing all your numbers. You need to know what your average client or deal sizes are. You need to know how many prospects you need to engage to generate enough proposals. You need to know how many of those proposals that you're going to convert. See, all of that is built into the science side of the business. You need to master science. Now, why do we recommend starting there? Because if you master science and you have prospect after prospect of opportunity, you will have a greater likelihood for success versus mastering art first. And I'll give you an example why. I mentioned during my working career, I've worked with a lot of people. I've worked with thousands of sales professionals. And in the corporate world, I would always tend to identify who was a great art person, meaning they had great communication skills, they had great salesmanship, they could sell. And I would also identify who the great science people were, the people that were great prospectors, people that could generate enough activity. And rarely, but it did happen, we would find that unicorn, that person that could master both, the one that could just do both really, really well. And they always tended to be somebody who was an elite sales professional. And it's one of the lessons that I learned. I've learned how to master both of those myself throughout my career. And it's what I've taught people how to master. But if you aren't in that place right now, if you're not a master of both, take my direction and master the science first. Master the numbers, master the activity, create more opportunities for yourself, okay? The more opportunities that you have for yourself, the greater your likelihood for success. And I'm gonna give you a quick analogy in a story. I remember when I led a small sales team, there were about 20 salespeople. And in this office, I had two very, very strong performers, but they were two uniquely different people. One person was a very strong art side of the person. They were very, very strong communicator, great sales skills. And they were competing against somebody in the office who had just masterful use of prospecting. They were a master prospector. And we had a little contest. That contest was to see who could outperform somebody in a 90-day window of time. And what we learned, which was quite interesting, was the sales professional that had the art side down was a more seasoned sales professional. They had, I think, 10 years of sales experience. And the person that mastered the art was in their first year of selling, their very first year. And would you believe at the end of those 90 days, that person who mastered the science, the younger sales professional, completely destroyed the other person's sales results. In fact, it was almost 2-to-1 in sales results. And it wasn't because they were a better salesperson. It was because they mastered the science. When we looked at the activity, when we looked at how much activity was going on and what they were doing, that person doubled the activity of the other person who had mastered the art. So they won the activity battle, and as a result, they won the sales contest. Now, I'm saying that if you're going to start somewhere and you want to master one versus the other, master the science. Now, how do you master the science? Okay, we talked about some of those things. You need to know your numbers, but how do you really master it? Well, you need to understand why those numbers are important and how they fit within what you're trying to do. Everybody has their own personal sales metrics and sales ratios, and maybe you even have some proposed or ideal metrics in your particular industry. But because people in a variety of different industries are watching this, we're going to use some very generic averages that you can use to be successful. And I believe that these ratios that I'm going to share with you are ratios that will work for you in any industry, particularly B2B, selling high ticket, whatever it is that you sell. If you can master these ratios, or this one particular ratio, you're going to find that you're going to be successful. And if you remember nothing else about this time today, I would remember this ratio. One of the ratios that I've used myself across my career, it's been a piece of why I've generated hundreds of millions of dollars in sales results across my whole career, and why many people that I've worked with have been very, very successful, is they've mastered this particular ratio. It's what I call the 10-3-1 ratio. I didn't create it, I just like to use it. The 10-3-1 ratio simply means this: for every 10 suspects that you identify, not even qualified, you'll probably narrow that number down to about 3 qualified prospects who may have an interest in what you do. And of those 3 qualified prospects, in the short term, you'll probably close 1 out of those 3 prospects and turn them into a new client. So the 10-3-1 ratio is 10 suspects narrows itself down to 3 qualified prospects, narrows itself down to 1 client in the short term. And what people that understand the science know is that that's a very simplified version of what your sales process or funnel may look like. For every 10, you get 3, and you close 1 out of 3, 33%. Pretty good number. That's a pretty consistent average. Well, here's what you need to understand, and this is why understanding numbers is so critical, particularly as it relates to science. There are little things that you can do to master your sales results. There are little things that you can do to increase your odds of 6xing your sales results. And I'm going to give you a little pro tip right now on what one of those things are. In that 10-3-1 ratio, I've just said 1 out of those 3 will probably buy. And that means 2 out of the 3 didn't. Here's the pro tip. 1 out of those 3, of the 2 that didn't buy, more than likely, on average, 1 of those 3 people is never going to buy from you. Never. And I say that because it's the law of averages, the law of large numbers. 1 out of 3 will buy, 1 out of 3 probably will never buy. And the pro tip is this: figure out who the people are that aren't going to buy as fast as possible. As fast as possible. For whatever reason, and we'll talk about what that may look like, for whatever reason, the better you get at identifying who the people are that will never buy, the more time you save, the better you can emphasize the other people that have a chance of buying, and the less time you spend spinning your wheels, wasting time. I tell people in all of my trainings, you don't sell suspects, people that really aren't a prospect. Some people go that far. They go to an extreme of everybody they talk to could be a prospect. It's just not the case. The quicker you figure out who the people are that will never buy, the more peace you will have in your selling process, and the more your sales results will increase. Now that leaves 1 out of those 3, that one in the middle, as a sales opportunity that you need to win. Whether you knew this or not, the battle that you're trying to win, if you want to 6x your sales results, it's not the one that you were going to get anyway. It's the one that was on the fence, the one that you could get with some work. The true elite sales professionals, the people that generate massive sales results, understand that. They don't spend their time chasing people that won't buy. They don't overtly spend too much extra time on the people that will buy. They focus their time and energy on the one in the middle. They focus their time and energy on the one that probably should buy, but they have to do some work to make it happen. 10-3-1 ratio. Now, part of the way you master all of your numbers in your science is by making adjustments. And I'll just give you a quick example. Today, we're recording this on January 23rd, 2024, and the month of January is almost over. We're a week away, less than a week away, and the month's over. It's done. And what you're going to need to do at the end of that month is you're now going to have to reassess your annual goals and figure out, am I on track or am I already behind? Did I have a bad January or did I have a fast start? Now, what does that mean? That means every month, if you're really going to master the science side of the business, every month you track all your results and you make adjustments. If you fell short in January, figure out what you have to make up to get back that shortfall in the next month so you can stay on track. It's okay if you spread that out over multiple months or even spread it out over the remaining 11 months. That's fine. Just make sure you make the adjustment. A lot of people fail because they don't make adjustments. So people that have mastered the science side, see, they've mastered all of that. They've mastered how to do all of that. It's the exact type of work that we do with the Sales Activist. It's what I could do to help you generate 6x your sales results. Now, one of the other things that I want to talk about before we talk about the art side of things is when people struggle with sales, and this may be some of you, if I say something that kind of rubs you the wrong way because it hits a little too close to home, I'm sorry, but it's for your own good. There are typically 2 areas that people fail in when they're struggling with sales. There are 2 specific areas that are usually broken when they are struggling with sales. When I've worked with large companies, large sales teams, and I looked at what was working and not working when people were struggling in sales, it was always these 2 things. When I look at individuals performing or not performing in sales, when they were struggling, these two things were the things that were broken. And here they are. The first is your client acquisition system. Your client acquisition system. Now, what is that? Well, that's how you identify suspects that you can turn into prospects, right? Your client acquisition system needs to be two specific things for your success. It needs to be duplicatable and it needs to be scalable. Now, I don't care what your client acquisition system is. It could just be you picking up the phone and calling people. It could be you emailing people, sending them social media messages. It could be that you have a funnel and a landing page and a website and a video newsletter. You could have all these things that are generating prospects or suspects for you, and that's how you acquire them, and that's fine. I don't care what it is that you're using. All I care about is that it needs to be duplicatable and scalable. If you're going to 6x your results, it needs to be scalable. Now, this is where sometimes people fail. They fail because what they're doing isn't something that's easily duplicated. If everything they're doing is themselves based upon their own energy, their own effort, their own activity, and it's limited by time, because we all are limited by time, it becomes very, very difficult to scale and increase your sales results if you don't get other people's help. Are you going to be able to 6x your sales results if you do it all yourself? Probably not. Probably not. I'll just give you an example. If everything that you're doing is you generating it yourself, you're probably not going to 6x your sales results because you won't have enough time to do it. You'll run out of time. You need to figure out economies of scale, how things are going to snowball and grow on your behalf. It needs to be scalable. And when I help businesses, when I help individuals with sales problems, I usually help them in the area of client acquisition systems because it feeds the sales process. Now, just a little quick pro tip on how you can jumpstart your client acquisition system. It's early in the year. It's still January. I would grab your phone and in your address book, go write down the list of everybody in your address book and send them a text message asking them if there's anything that you can do to help them. If there's anything that you can do to help them, and start some conversations. Just jumpstart some conversations with people. Clients, former clients, business contacts, friends, anybody that you can jumpstart conversations with. I would highly recommend using texting as the medium to make that connection. Why? Most people tend to respond to a text. You can always take that conversation online and have a Zoom call. You could take it offline and meet them in person. You could connect to them in any other way, but reach out via text. I think you'll find your results will be better. And then change the pattern of how you communicate with people. If you're struggling to connect with people in your client acquisition system, this is another pro tip. Make sure you change the pattern of how you connect with people. Mix up your messaging, mix up how you reach out to them. If one time it's a phone call, make the next time a text, make the next time an email, make the next time a social media message, mix it up. Called pattern interruption. Studies have shown human psychology reflects favorably upon pattern interruption. Just like it responds negatively when they think that the message is simply the same. If you send the same message over and over again to somebody, they are going to think that they know what you're going to say, and they will discount what it is that you're saying. You may have 3 sentences and they're all powerful, but if it's the same 3 sentences that you send somebody, eventually they're going to stop reading the messages. Eventually they're going to look at the first and go, I've seen this before. Their mind is going to instantly tell them to discount what you're saying, and they're going to move on to the next thing. If you want to 6x your sales results, pattern interruption. Pattern interruption. You want to make sure that you do that as well. Now, the second area that people struggle, that usually have something broken, when they struggle, it's because they don't typically have an easy to follow sales process. They don't have an easy to follow sales process. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. Across my lifetime, my career, I've easily read hundreds and hundreds of books on professional selling, easily. And one of the things that I've noticed about every single one of those books, somewhere at some point in that process, in that book, it became too complicated to command my ongoing attention. Has anybody else had that same experience in a book or a training class or in something that they were thinking that was going to help them get better? Well, part of what happens in human psychology is when things get complicated, portions of your mind start shutting down. And at some point, you create a wall around learning and you don't learn what's necessary. And what I've learned in working with over 3,500 professionals and entrepreneurs is you need to simplify things. You need to dummy them down so they can be very straightforward and very direct. Okay? Think about this. Think about how popular the book series, Whatever for Dummies, has become. Every single category, every single topic, every single element that could be taught or learned by somebody, there's now a book out there, so-and-so for dummies. Now, why is that? Because people appreciate, understand, respect, and get more from simple, easy to follow processes. It's easier on them. I've seen people have these massive, convoluted, complicated sales processes, and ultimately it would lead to their demise. It just would. Why? Because the more complicated something is, the more likely that something is going to complicate it and make it go wrong. And here's what you need to understand about a sales process. And this is where the art comes in to being successful in sales. The sales process is all about how you communicate, your salesmanship, the art side of the business. But it doesn't mean it has to be complicated. It doesn't mean you have to be this silver-tongued person that is just amazing at talking to somebody. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it needs to be easy to follow. Now, why is that so critical? Because the likelihood for something else complicating your sales process, and when I say something else, I mean the prospect, the market, the budget, the decision maker changing. I could give you a list of 20 things that could make the sales process more complicated, right? Could be anything. The weather, pick something. All of these things, excuse me, all of these things are complications, excuse me, are complications, excuse me, that you need to avoid. I'm going to take a cough drop for a second. They are complications that you need to avoid. Now, why is that? Because these complications from the outside world in are going to happen. Excuse me. There's no getting around it. Those complications are going to happen. Now, you can master that process and get ahead of that by having a simple, easy to follow sales process. Your sales process must be simple, easy to follow, and bulletproof. Bulletproof. Now, excuse me, why is that so important? Because with all these complications of the sales process, things from your prospect, the client, the decision maker, whatever the reason is, your side of the house needs to be simple. And I'll give you a quick analogy of how complicated sales processes can work against you. If something changes in the sales process, the more complicated your end of things is, excuse me, the harder it is, excuse me, the harder it is for you to be able to get back on track and continue momentum in the sales process. Many times people will have what we'll call a multi-step sales process. And maybe that sales process involves multiple calls, multiple appointments, maybe an initial fact find, and then maybe a proposal review or a summary or a solutions meeting. Well, that multiple step process can be very complicated. Why? Because people create all kinds of barriers when you're trying to work with them. Sometimes the complications are outside of their control. Sometimes it's within their control. So how we get around that, how we surpass that problem, is by creating a simple, easy to follow sales process. And this is where the salesmanship, the art comes in. You make the process bulletproof. Across my career, I've developed a proprietary sales process called the 5V method or the VALS method. Now, I like to use this because it's simple, it's to the point, anybody can remember it. Remember the vowels when you were in school, A, E, I, O, U, right? That's the sales process that you're going to follow. And I want you to write this down. I want you to remember this. If I can help you in implementing a simple, easy to follow sales process, please let me know. I'd love to help you with it. But here's the way the sales process works. The A in the sales process is attract. You need to attract people to you. You need to draw them into you. If you're going to 6x your sales results, here's a little tip. People need to be interested in you, and you need to attract them to you. Now, I don't mean physically attract them to you. I mean, they need to want to be interested enough in you to listen. They need to be compelled enough by what you're sharing with them and how you communicate with them that they want to work with you. See, whether you knew it or not, everybody that's listening to this call today and everybody who's not listening to this call today, we're all in the same business. And that business is to position ourselves as a trusted advisor to our client. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, doesn't matter what you offer, doesn't matter what you sell. We have one mission only, and it's to position ourselves as a trusted advisor. Now, why is that so important? Because the trusted advisor status means that they take your direction. They take your advice on solutions, right? They have felt a degree of comfort with you, and you have now put yourself kind of in their inner circle, and they trust and believe in you. That's the status that you're trying to achieve. Now, why is that so powerful? Because when people have the opportunity of working with somebody and truly developing that type of relationship with them, that relationship will overcome a lot of challenges. It'll overcome pricing considerations sometimes. It'll overcome competitive situations. It'll overcome losing a client for a variety of different reasons. So you want to be that trusted advisor. And that starts by attracting them to you. The second part of the sales process, and this is as easy as it is, A for attract, E for engage. You need to engage people the right way. I don't know about you, but if you show up to a sales meeting and you're sitting down with a prospect and you spend the majority of your time talking about what it is that you do, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. If you spend all your time talking about your product, how amazing it is, the features, the benefits, if that's what you're talking about, you're doing it wrong. 80% of the time should be spent interacting and engaging with the prospect and hearing what's important to them. Now, I'm not saying that there won't be a time and a place and a situation to talk about what you do. There will be, but that's coming up in a little bit. First, and more important than anything, is you need to engage people the right way. Now, the second part of that process, engaging them, is critical because when you engage them the right way, you've earned the right to now start digging deeper and getting what you really need to uncover from your prospect. And this is where elite sales professionals operate. The next part of the sales process, the I in the AEIOU, stands for impact. Impact. What you need to be selling is impact. You're not selling a product or a service. You're not selling value. You're selling impact. That's what people are buying. They aren't buying your product or your service. They're not buying you. They're buying impact. Now, it helps when your product or your service is amazing, and it helps when you're their trusted advisor. Of course, that makes the process easier. But what they're really buying into and what they need for themselves is impact. And let me give you an example of that. I like to use this example because I think people need to understand this differently. A lot of people out there sell on value. Let's say you have a high ticket offering and that offering is $20,000. And your product will deliver $100,000 of bottom line profit to the businesses that you work with. They spend $20,000, they net $100,000 after paying back what they paid for your service. They get a 5x ROI on the cost of your service. Well, that's pretty powerful value, and that's compelling. And a lot of people will sell on the merits of that. But what elite salespeople know is that the sale really gets solidified when you talk about impact. So let's use an example. And that example is, instead of selling on value, we say to that prospect, I'm going to sell this product to you. You're going to net $100,000. That's what they expect to get, $100,000. And that's their mindset. It's very logical. It's numbers driven. Okay? But logic isn't where people make buying decisions. Now let's take that same scenario, and instead of talking about the number, let's talk about what the number represents. What if you said to that prospect, Mr. Client, if I slid a check across the desk to you right now for $100,000, what would you spend the money on? And then you let them talk. You let them tell you everything that they would spend the money on. You ask them what they would invest in. Would they invest more in their business? Maybe they would invest more in marketing. Maybe it would expand their business. Then you would ask them, what additional lines of revenue could you expect from that expansion? And all of a sudden, that $100,000 could turn into $200,000 or $500,000. And more importantly than that, you're not talking about just the number. You're talking about what it means to them. What it means to them. Imagine if you're sitting there and one of those things that person says to you is, with that kind of money being invested back in the business, I could take a break. I could finally take a vacation. I could take my wife and my kids, or my family, my husband and my kids on vacation. We haven't had a vacation in 5 years. Do you really think that's a numbers-driven decision, or is that an emotional decision? It's an emotional decision, of course. But that's where elite sales professionals operate. They operate in what we call the impact phase, okay? Impact is tied to emotion, and emotion is what generates buying decisions. People buy on emotion, and they move forward with their decisions based upon logic, okay? The reason why you want to focus on impact and emotion is because that is a safer place for you to operate. When people tell you why this is so important to them in their own words, why that vacation would mean so much to them and their family, it's something that now goes from a possibility to now becoming something that's taking place in their conscious reality. It's now conscious to them that they could make this happen. And when it comes time to making that decision, they're going to want to make that decision to do it. They're going to want to make decision to turn that into a reality. Now, let me describe for you the next part of the sales process, because this is critical. This is what's going to help you generate 6x the sales results. Your offer, your product, your service, your solution comes after you've explored impact, after they tell you everything that they want or could get or what the value might be. That's when you really double down on your offer. Now, why? And that's what the O stands for, your offer. Why do you do it after impact? It's because now you know what means the most to them. They've given you and written out for you a roadmap. They've told you what it is that they really want most. All you need to do then is to help them get it. In fact, one of the most powerful things that I've ever learned is what I call my, $250 million close. And it's just this. After you've gotten to the point of exploring impact and gotten them to talk about that, after you talked about how your solution would do it, your simple closing statement is something like this. I know you said this means so much to you. Would you let me help you make that happen? Would you let me help you do it? Would you let me help you make that a reality? Because believe it or not, it has everything to do about their emotion in that moment and not about your product, your service, your offering. You're a means to the end, but when you position it that way, you are there at the right time and the right place. And the final element of the easy to follow sales process is you for understanding. Understanding. At the end of every sales interaction, whether it's a proposal, whether it's an initial meeting, whether it's a close, whether you've already closed, whatever it is, at the end of every sales interaction, you have to put a U on it, understanding. there needs to be a shared understanding as to the next steps in the process, whatever they may be. A lot of people fail in selling and they miss golden opportunities to 6x their sales results because they don't close the loop correctly. They don't tighten things up. Now, I'm going to tell you, when you follow that easy to follow sales process, AEIOU, and you master impact, it gives you all that you need to know to 6x your sales results. But you need to learn how to master it the right way. You need to understand all the nuances and the power of delivering it the right way. That's what makes the difference. Elite sales professionals understand that. They understand that you don't settle for value when you sell. You focus on making an impact. And every single question that you ask your prospects or clients should be exploring impact every step of the way. Yes, you're going to uncover needs and issues and benefits that are multiple times larger than the cost of your offerings. And that's where the ROI comes from. That's the no-brainer part. But what the true glue is in the entire process is by exploring the impact. Exploring the impact. And by getting them to describe that in their own words, it's where the psychology really comes in. It's where they start to put together everything that's necessary in making a buying decision. So when you deliver your offer, after you now know what's most important to them, you can tailor that offer and describe it in a way that makes the most sense and it's most appealing to them. Too many times people do it backwards. They want to talk about how amazing their product or their service is. The prospect doesn't generate any emotional connection to it. They don't get an opportunity to really dig deep about it with the salesperson, and the salesperson swings and misses. They have no opportunity. But when you have an easy to follow sales process and it's dialed in the right way, a way that we teach at the Sales Activist, you can become bulletproof in your sales process. You won't win them all, but you will set yourself up in a way to not only close more business than you normally do, but to set yourself up for more powerful referrals, to set yourself up for more repeat business, to create more selling opportunities. Imagine if your initial product is $20,000, but then you explore and figure out 10 other things that they want to do in their business, and you can assess price tags to those things because they are things that you can do to help your prospect deliver. You could give those things to them through other services that you have. It's an amazing upselling opportunity when you leverage impact. So for you to be able to truly 6x your sales results, you need to dial in all of these points. Now, I went through all of this in a very bullet point, rapid fire way today because I want to make sure I got through all of it in this hour. So I want to make sure I gave everybody an opportunity to learn more. If you'd like to personally build your own plan to 6x your sales results in 2024, I have dedicated some time coming up over the next 6 days to talk to people about how they can do that. You can connect with me by texting the word sales to the number 409-509-7355. It will access my digital assistant, and that digital assistant will work with you to schedule a time to talk with me. We'll conduct a sales strategy session. It's completely free, and the idea is to talk about how we can help build you a plan to 6x your sales results. We're building 6x plans for entrepreneurs all around the country. We want to do that for you. So please reach out to me. I'd love to have an opportunity to talk with you about sales in your business, and most importantly, to help you figure out a way to 6x your sales results. 2024 could be the best year ever in sales for your business. Just reach out. My name is Joe Beck with the Sales Activist. To connect with me, once again, just text the word sales to the number 409-509-7355. I would love to talk with you about sales in your own personal sales strategy session where we design a plan to help you 6x your sales results. This is Joe Beck with the Sales Activist, and we'll see you soon. Take care.